welcome back to this episode of this Healthy Life podcast. I'm so excited for my guest today. I have Dr. Jaban Moore. I have been following him for years. We've done a few other little interviews and IG lives over the years. So super excited to finally have him here on the podcast. So Dr. Moore, so nice to see you again, and thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I love being able to jump on podcasts, spread information, give people the insights because I'm in it all day, every day, still seeing patients. Even though I'm making content, I am still an actual practicing doc.
Amazing. And today we're going to be talking about something that I think people just throw around so lightly, the gut-brain axis and gut-brain connection. And, I think a lot of people are saying this word, but don't really fully understand what it is. So super excited to unpack that with you today. So let's start with a quick intro about yourself. So you are a doctor and you see people mostly focused in kind of the complex chronic illness space. Do you want to share a little bit about your practice and what you kind of do every day?
Yeah. So my practice is multidisciplinary chiropractors, acupuncturists, medical doctors, but we all focus in the mystery symptoms, the people that feel left out, that don't get answers, that have passed from doc to doc to doc. That's really where we excel because we just love pulling together data. And the goal in the end is to be the last doc, not just the next person that you're working with, right? Like that's the goal. So that's kind of the standpoint that we come from everybody that works with me on my team. And yeah, we work one on one with clients searching for answers. And today, as we dive into it, we talk about radioactive elements in the water and how that's disrupting your gut, which leads to inflammation in your brain. We can talk about mold toxicity that creates brain on fire, that then leads to an overreactive immune system. So you become allergic to foods, like all kinds of foods or chemicals, or you end up with tinnitus from inflammation in your brain. We can talk about Lyme disease and how that's going off like crazy right now all over social media because Pfizer's got a vaccine coming out. And I'm like, good luck. There's like 29 different organisms in the Borrelia family. You guys are looking at six. And
And
beyond
missing
that,
all the co-infections too, right? Like
yeah,
no
you're
one's going to talk about that.
infections. I'm like, complete miss. Good luck. Fortunately, when I posted a real quiz out there, I was like, how many people are going to do this? And like 90% of people are like, no, we know better.
Yeah. Not quite there yet, right? Not gonna trust that.
No, no. So you can take me down whatever rabbit hole you want to go because that is my job every day is to figure
Awesome.
out what's going on.
Amazing. So let's start with the gut-brain connection. I mean, I think a lot of people hear this term and, don't really know how it is all connected. No one really connects what's going on in their brain with what's going on in their gut. People think gut symptoms are just gonna be like digestive issues and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about what that connection is and how it all works.
So I make things extraordinarily simple. I'm gonna talk like I would talk to my kid. He's 3, and explain it that way because I'm gonna make that's the only way that I think it makes sense, which is this. Your digestive tract produces neurotransmitters. A neurotransmitter is a little bitty biochemical that then makes your brain work. For those of you out there that have taken a depression medication, anxiety medication, if you've been told you're ADHD or you can't go to sleep, a lot of that is based off of those little neurotransmitters, those little chemicals in your gut that go to your brain. So if you don't have specific bacteria in your digestive tract because you took too many antibiotics as a kid, or you ate too much food that had pesticides on it, you stressed yourself out too long and your body ended up with lack of hydrochloric acid due to stress because you will stop producing acid if you're too stressed out or if you don't eat enough, and then you got parasites or bacteria or you got food poisoning. All of these things affect your gut microbiome, so little bacteria in your gut. And those little bacteria in your gut control your ability to digest food, to make those neurotransmitters. So, no good bacteria, no normal brain function, to the point that they're seeing incredible changes with fecal transplants. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but have you heard that they're doing oral fecal transplants now?
I did, yes. I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel about those?
So I was at a conference and there's little like poops all over
Uh-huh.
the table, like the emojis. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cute. I'm gonna get one for my kid. So I walk over to this thing and I'm talking to him and I'm like, this is intriguing. So I recorded them for my podcast and it is crazy. So first of all, it's not like you're putting in like this brown,
It's like a
mushy
brown
stuff in your
capsule.
mouth, right? Like that's the image that we all get. But what it really is it's a probiotic. They've basically taken a human feces, distilled down the bacteria, and then it's the exact same thing as a probiotic because it's just a powder at this point. Well, how do you get a real probiotic that you think of from the shelves that everybody's taken? Well, you get those by growing this bacteria in a petri dish or using mold to stimulate it, or it's not human derived. So, their standpoint, which I honestly can probably get behind a lot of this, is non-human derived bacteria, even if it's the same strain, doesn't behave the same in the digestive tract of a human, which is why I've had so many clients have reactions to probiotics or honestly just have no results at all. And long-term changes to their gut isn't amazing. And it's like, well, I just spent all this money on probiotics. What did it do for me? And they're showing the efficacy. And I've seen it in autistic kids who it's not placebo. They don't know the difference. I've seen it in autoimmune clients where you do a fecal matter transplant rectally and the results are incredible because you actually got their microbiome better. And here's the cool thing. Well, it's kind of bad for some people, but it's cool for us to know now. If you transplant the wrong microbiome, you will take on characteristics of the person that the stool came from. So we obviously don't want the bad kind.
Yep. I've heard this, right? And if someone was, like, overweight and then got the microbiome from someone that was skinny, they started losing weight, and it affected kind of your whole body composition too. I've heard that happening too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And if you look at the bacteria from Africa to here to Europe to China, it's all different. If you look at different lifestyles, it's all different. And the screening process they went for this FMT, fecal matter transplant, was like a person under 30 with no history of any sort of cancers or disease in their family that has only had antibiotics 5 or less times, that hasn't had a recent vaccination, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, do these people exist?
I
And they're
know,
like,
right? Where are
yeah,
they
they
finding these
do.
people?
I was like, I don't meet those standards and I feel like I'm really healthy. But that's just one of the pieces that create your brain and gut connection is your bacteria and your gut create byproducts that allow your brain to operate. Well, then there's the connection of the nervous system itself. So there's one long nerve a lot of us have heard about is the vagus nerve. And so your brain has this long nerve that goes to your gut that stimulates your digestive tract. So if your brain is in anxiety, then it's telling your digestive tract that right now you're not feeling safe. So let's stay out of that rest, digest, recover, and detox process. We're not going to poop normally. We're not going to recover our digestive tract, which leads to colitis. We're not going to allow for the rest of your gut. So it might be constantly doing something. You might end up with some bloating, and it could be different based off of a different person. But that's just anxiety telling from your brain, your vagus nerve, to tell your gut, right now is not a good time for rest, digest, recover, and detox. It's let's be safe. Well, how many people have you met that are anxious always in the world
Everybody,
we live
I feel like at this point in our lives, right?
in? Yeah. So
Very
why
few
do you think
people feel regulated.
everybody
Mhm.
it's like everybody has gut problems. It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that nerve, just from talking about anxiety, and we're not talking about the depths of trauma or mold or these other irritants that can affect it. So let's throw trauma in there. So trauma triggers you and your brain to have a change through the limbic system. So your amygdala part of your brain goes into this trauma response. So it says safety, protect, and you get this hypervigilance, which keeps your gut out of rest, digest, right? Recover. So now you have a constant breakdown into your gut of healing and going to the bathroom, pooping, which by the way, you should poop every day with every large meal. If you're not, there's a problem. So trauma puts you into this cycle that is self perpetuating. So you have trauma as a 16-year-old and now you're 46 and you come to me and you're not pooping normally and you have a little hypervigilance, your shoulders are a little pulled up and maybe there's some tension in your neck and you've got all these gut issues and I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" And I get into your history like, "Oh, it's trauma. Oh, it's way back when you're 16." Well, it didn't this symptom didn't come on for 20 years. Okay, but it takes a while to break down and allow for problems to happen. And what you get with the vagus nerve is when there's trauma, it sends all these signals. It's just constant firing of the we need to be in sympathetic or fight or flight. We got to be in this state. And then at some point, you don't even consciously have to do it anymore. It just goes, right? you have to teach yourself to bend over and pick something up correctly. Well, to do that, you have to do it over and over and over, and it becomes a habit, then you do it. If you teach yourself to fire trauma or fire anxiety over and over and over, eventually it becomes a habit and it just happens. And that's what happens to most of us with the gut brain connection, whether it's from the gut up from the microbiome or from the brain down through the vagus nerve. And there are other ways, but just to give you those two pieces of context, you create habits. And to break those habits, you have to do physical therapy to your brain and also to your gut. And it's not just a matter of let me get out of the problem to make it work, which is what a lot of people are doing. Oh, just change your diet. Yeah, that's not going to work for some people. Not the people I work with. They already eat well. Now what?
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, so many people are doing everything right and still continue to have these symptoms, right? And it's like their body is just set in this kind of constant stressed out state that they need to break, like you said, kind of break that loop, break that habit to get into a safe place to actually feel like they can heal.
And, just to give one more piece of context, and you can take it wherever you want to go, but many people I work with, they're like, well, I'd never had trauma. I don't fit I have food poisoning or took a ton of antibiotics. Okay. Did you move into mold? Do you drink tap water? Because both of those things are, if you live in a house and you drink tap water in LA, it's radioactive. I can just tell you that. I've got enough clients, it's radioactive.
So let's talk about this because you brought this up at the beginning, and I didn't have this on my list, but I'm super curious about this because, like, what is going on with our water? What is making it radioactive? What's happening?
I'll absolutely hit that. I'm just going to finish that one statement. But if you have the radioactive water, it's every day going in. So your body's in a constant state of, I'm unsafe, even if it's not conscious, because you don't know. You didn't know. And you live out there. But mold is the same thing. You breathe it in. It's constant state of unsafe, which leads to that process. So let's dive into the radioactive elements. I just gave a presentation on this at MAPS, which is Medical Association of Pediatric and Special Needs. So I was on stage, I was speaking to all these pediatricians and medical doctors, and I get up there and I'm like, I'm going to be talking on radium, uranium, and radon. And they're just like, boring. And then I go, wait a minute. All right, everybody, pull your phones out. So if you're listening right now, do this www.ewg.org water database. There's probably some slashes in there, so don't put it in the search bar, not the actual whatever that's called anyway. So find that website, go to the water database, put in your zip code, right? Put it in. And if you look up your zip code, you're going to see what is in your water. And let's just talk about this. I brought up radioactive elements. So if you have uranium, radium, cesium, thallium, or radon, these are radioactive elements that can be in your water supply. And here's what doesn't remove those: your fridge filter, your Brita, your Berkey, your carbon system, your RO system. So I just named off pretty much every type of filter. People are like, well, I have and they're going to name a type of a brand name, but that pretty much gets the majority of all the types of systems. Ionic system's another one that it does not remove well. And the reason why I go through it is, for the most part, we think we're living clean because water supplies are supposed to be clean. And then I go and do the research and it says, well, RO only can remove 90% of, give or take, radioactive elements. Radioactive elements, well, we all know what radiation is, right? If any radiation gets in your body, it slowly starts to weaken your system. It can create cancer, it can create autoimmune reactions. It slowly breaks down your gut. It kills your
And your
gut
thyroid
bacteria.
too,
It
right?
brings, yep, thyroid too. It brings in yeast. So many people I work with had been to amazing Lyme docs, mold docs, gut docs, and they're like, I've had a few very wealthy individuals come in and they went the gamut. They spent some big money and they're like, I'm still sick. And I go, okay, well, let me go through and see if I can find anything, because that's usually how I do that. And to find for them, I go, here's a hair test. We run it. There's radiation in there. It's uranium or radium. That's one way to do it. And okay, change your water like that. Symptoms start fading just like that.
So
Now,
what how do they change their water? I mean, what do you recommend if you're water filters are not gonna be filtering this out. Like, where should people be sourcing their water and drinking water from?
Well, that's a great question. It's first of all, distilled water is your gold standard of how to remove radioactive elements. RO can be okay. The problem is it's not perfect. It's only 90%. If you're genetically superior to some of the rest of us, cool, that's fine.
Most of us with chronic
Um,
illness are not, right?
yeah, if you're listening, you probably don't fit that bill, or someone you know doesn't fit that bill. If you have HLA-DR, if you have MTHFR, if you have COMT, if you have VDR, any of these gene SNPs that make you a little less likely to have vitamin D, glutathione, and B12, um, sorry about it. Let's just do the right thing. Look up your water supply. So I gave it out. Everybody's looking it up now. I looked up LA for you.
Is it nasty?
Uranium is 9.8 times the EWG standard.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
it does fall within the EPA standard, and I want to talk about that because you can even go on Gemini AI from Google and ask, well, what is the standard for this? In the 70s, they went back and they're like, okay, as the EPA, let's create standards for the water supply. Do you think they did that based off of research data for what causes problems in your body?
Never.
No. Do you think they did that off of health outcomes? Nope. They did it off of what fiscally could be removed from a water supply. So, how much it costs. So, your water supply, good or bad for you, is based off of how much it costs.
And not surprising, but disgusting at the same time.
So, the next thing that everybody needs to look up is look up removed water pipes when they're dug up. So, my family does some real estate, and when a water main breaks and you look at what that water main looks like on the
It's
inside of it,
disgusting.
you are really disenchanted with the water supply. Whether or not it was clean coming out of the actual like filtration place, once it gets to your house, oh my goodness, what it's gone through, the crust, the rust, the and some of the pipes are asbestos. I had a client that was a water treatment plant guy from Nashville years ago, so I don't know if they fixed it now. Don't call me Nashville. And he was like, "Yeah, half of our stuff still has asbestos pipes in it." I'm like, "Is that legal?" They're like, "Well, it's grandfathered in." I'm going, "Uh-huh." So, again, we have to defend ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. And the tool that you can use is go to EWG, look it up. If you see a on there, so cesium, thallium, radium, uranium, and you look it up and it's a radioactive element, then you probably need to get a distiller for your drinking water. You're not going to do that for your showering water. You can't. It's just not realistic. And a distiller is a pain in the butt. I promise you it is because you got to clean it once a month. But here's the thing, once you've had a distiller and you've cleaned it, you can never go back.
Mhm. We do have a whole house water filter, but I don't know how much of it's pulling out. It pulls it's at the outside of the house, so it cleans everything coming from the city before it comes into
Mhm.
our house. So it has like 4 tanks, a UV light, a bunch of stuff. So I hope that's
Yep.
cleaning some of it out. But yeah, maybe not enough. I don't know. And then you've got the issue of the pipes in your house too, right? I mean, I live in an older house. Who knows what condition the inside of my house pipes are in, given that
Mhm.
the city pipes are a little grimy from all the years that they've gone through. So it's always hard, right? You're just like you're trying to do the right thing, trying to drink cleaner water, but it seems like it's never enough.
Well, I'd say you're probably 80%. You're probably 80%. Maybe not on uranium, but on a lot of the other things that I see on here. I mean, there's what does it say? There's 14 contaminants at zip code 90001. I know LA is massive. There's like 40 zip codes on here, so I just
Yes.
picked one. And for that zip code, that there's 14 contaminants that go over the level that EWG has researched to prove out that this is the human capacity, not the fiscal capacity, right? So the difference between cost and ideal. And what you end up doing is your system likely is a carbon system outside your house. I have one of those in my basement myself. And that shows probably 70 to 90% reduction in most things is what that really comes down to. And it's a great system. And I recommend people have that in their house. And then at the sink, if you don't have any of the RO is probably good enough. It does remove the PUFAs pretty well, which go look up the water supply to PUFA map these days. They're everywhere. And if you don't know what a PUFA is, it's a forever chemical that comes from industrial waste that's getting into our water. You don't want that in your body. It's going to cause endocrine disruption. You're going to have hormone issues. That hormone issue puts you into fight or flight way more often because you're up and down. You ever met somebody that's hormone imbalanced, which then leads to neurological symptoms that leads to the vagus nerve, leads to the gut. So I'll put it all back together for us. But for you being out in the LA area, likely let that go through your house and then get your distiller to be your drinking water. So you have just a little spigot on your tap where that's your drinking water, and now you've got the full system for you. That's my recommendation to people. If you have any of the ums, if you don't, then we can go RO, and that's pretty good too. And the distillers that you get, to make sure that you don't have any of the aerosolized VOC things that can be in water, you actually should have a distiller that also has a carbon filter that the water goes through after it goes through the evaporation process. Because the distiller, the difference in it, and you'll know if you have one, I promise you, you'll know if you have one. It evaporates from one tank to the next. So all the heavy stuff stays.
Mm.
All the
So
stuff
that's why you
that
have to
doesn't
clean it out every
melt.
month. So then
Yep.
you see
And
everything that was in your water. Ugh.
yeah, that's what I was saying. If once you've done it, you don't go back. We forgot to clean it for 6 weeks in my downtown Kansas City office where I did not have a, like, whole house filter on it because, we have 2 toilets and a sink. Like, we don't have, like, showers and stuff going on. So we forgot to do it for 6 weeks. This was during the COVID era, so I only had 5 people in the clinic, like, and we didn't have clients coming in that much. Um and after 6 weeks of not cleaning it when we first bought it, there was a little more than a quarter inch of sediment on the entire tank. The tank itself was like this big, and for those that can't see that, maybe 12 inches by 7 inches
Like a
by
propane tank
s
maybe or a little smaller?
half of a
Half a propane
propane
tank,
tank, we'll
okay.
call it that. Was the and it was completely covered, all portions by more than a quarter of an inch, so by more than, like, your pinky nail thick, of junk that smelled like sewage.
Have you ever set that in for testing? Are there any labs that you can take that sediment in and see everything that's in there?
I mean, you could, but I haven't let it go that long anymore. Now we do it every 3 weeks because I'm just like, "No," and I mean, you can just test your water and
Yeah,
find out, and it
that's
is
true
what is
too,
on the
yeah.
EWG, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
EWG is publishing the EPA's guidelines of what's in there, so that's what it is. It's
Mhm.
it's the fluoride, the chlorine, in Kansas City, we have atrazine, which is a pesticide.
Mhm.
Um, it's the PUFAs, it's all that stuff, the stuff, well, again, once you see it and smell it, you're like, "Oh, never again." You're just done. It's one of those things, for instance, if you watch how they make certain foods, you're like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm disenchanted." Have you ever heard of how they make a hot dog? If you haven't and you like hot
It's
dogs, never look it up.
disgusting.
Yeah. It's like my uncle was in a butcher job when he was younger, and it's just like all the junk they cut off, all the extras, they throw through a grinder and it makes a hot dog. I'm like, "Oh," like, the lips and ears and tail. I'm like, "Oh, I can't. I just can't." Like, that ruined hot
It's an
dogs for me
all-American
forever.
favorite.
So, yeah, that's water. Where are we
Wow.
going from here?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the distilled water just for a second before we move on. So, is it true that you need to also kind of, like, remineralize and, like, add electrolytes back to distilled water? Because if you just drink that, that's not ideal for the human body either, right? Or what do you kinda do with the water once it's distilled? What do you have to do to make sure it's nourishing you and hydrating you?
So here's the deal. Let's take it back to step 1. I would rather have H2O pure than H2O with uranium that also has chromium and arsenic and whatever that's been through a lake that's somewhat kind of maybe structured. But if it's coming from your tap, let me just say this, it's no longer naturally structured because it went through their cleaning process. It's no longer clean because we can look it up and see what it is. And it doesn't have good minerals in it. Like, people are like, "Oh, I'm going to not have minerals if I drink tap water." I'm going, tap water
There's
doesn't
not
have the
really
good
any in
stuff
there
either.
anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So just take away the fear from that piece. Like, if we
Mhm.
just break it down logically, and then if you're the I'm buying spring water person that's from a spring, so you're assuming that it's structured, not high pH and mineralized. Okay, that's different. We're removing the benefits of what you would have gotten from the spring water, assuming the spring water is clean. So then what I end up doing is, yes, I add minerals back. I have some of my favorites, whether I do like I don't know, an instant hydration or a trace mineral supplement that I put in there. I do actually do that because I do want to bring the pH back down because pure H2O is slightly more acidic than mineralized H2O. I do like adding the minerals back. However, you know this, you absorb 90 to 99% of your minerals not from water supply. Because if you get it in normal water supply and it's not purposeful, it's micronized little baby rocks. Your gut doesn't absorb tiny little rocks. It just doesn't do that well. It's a nice thought, but even spring water, the absorption of the tiny rocks is pretty pitiful, to be frank. We get our minerals from either animal or plant based organic compounds where it's been absorbed by something else structurally, and then your body can pull in those proteins, those carbohydrates, those fats, and that's how we absorb it more effectively is when it's already organically bound. So, adding it back in for me is more of a pH for your teeth, for your mouth, for your gut thing than it is an absorption thing. And then when you go beyond that, you talk about the structure. Is it living water? Is it dead water? Because I hear that too. 'Cause I've had this conversation a lot with clients that are like, I like my structured water. Get a structuring device. They have all kinds of them. They can be like a gallon of water. It's in a pretty vase. It sits on your table. I can't remember the name of it, but it like spins it. So it structures it. Get one of those. I'm all for it. I've had people tell me they feel better doing that. But I'm just let's start with the basics. Get clean.
Awesome. I definitely learned something from this one. Can definitely look into a distiller now. Ugh. And then, so let's go down another rabbit hole that people love to talk about, and I feel like need a little bit more information on is the mold rabbit hole and that how that all kind of pertains to the gut brain axis.
Ooh, mold. So where do you want me to start? You want me to start with, some basic symptoms
Yeah,
and then take it
we
from
can start at the
there?
beginning. We talk about mold quite a bit on the podcast, but I think it's always good to kind of have a refresher for anyone that's tuning into this episode for the first time.
Got it. Then I'll give my like 120-second mold 101. Mold's everywhere. It's in every house, it's in every building, it's in every state, it's in every climate. And it's not about just having mold, it's about the amount of mold and it's about the type of mold to the person, to their genetic composition, because that does matter and it is different. And you can tolerate mold differently based on your stress load. In general, mold symptoms are not just your hay fever and a little cough, a little asthma. That's what publicly gets thrown out there. It's the constant hit of the mold when it is a problem for you that leads to night sweats, anxiety. It leads to immune system degradation. So it weakens your immune system, allowing SIBOs and Lymes and parasites to come in and do their damage to you. Oftentimes, people with mold will end up with what I call brain on fire, which is all of these brain symptoms, overwhelm, this burnout, this histamine type reaction, also, which is immune. And that histamine can trigger brain symptoms or it can trigger rashes. It can trigger grind, not as much grinding of teeth, but just thirst because your body's in a fight or flight state. So you're dumping minerals because your body's trying to get you to safety, even though you don't know that there's a problem per se. So frequent urination goes up. That's just a few of the things. And then when I go into the rabbit hole of mold, it's like symptomatically that's there. Mold is the ultimate co-infection. It's the ultimate, I'm going to weaken you so everything else can take you down, is what it really can be. Although it can do it by itself, mold itself in a house, when it's bad and you can see it, you're probably not having a problem because you left. The majority of people will fix it if they see it.
Mhm.
So
It's the
the
hidden stuff
majority
that
of,
gets you, right? Like, no one even knows
yeah,
it's
it's the
there
hidden
and
stuff.
has all these symptoms. Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have to see it. You don't have to smell it because many molds are not smellable. And that's when it's dangerous because you're in there for 6 months, you had no idea. And I can tell you a story about a guy I just had come to my clinic. He's in Switzerland. He virtually sees me. And he's this high level real estate entrepreneur, awesome dude. We've had some amazing conversations that just hit this wall. He's like, I just feel like I'm like falling off a cliff. He's like early 30s and I said, all right, well, what's going on? He's like, well, about 2 years ago, I just felt like things were happening. I've been to this doc and this guy, and I quit drinking, I quit going out. I did everything I thought I would do to feel better, and I'm not. I said, okay. Have you ever checked for a number of things? Radon, mold, you were drinking a lot, you got a girlfriend. He's like, but she makes me better. And this all happened back at that time, right? Like she makes me rest. She slowed me down. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably not it. Do you have anxiety about it? No, I love her. Okay. Um, so then I went and ran some testing on him, and we got back that his place was just riddled with mold, just riddled. It's a new build. It's a new build. Like
That's
he's a
so
construction.
common. I think people think that a new house or new build is safe and clean and not gonna have any issues, but I almost feel like they have more issues than older properties sometimes, am I right?
100%.
Yeah.
So he's a construction guy. So he's like, it can't be a new build, right? I'm like, oh yeah. So he goes, how? And here's things that some of my other clients, they're building houses. I just had a person back out of a house contract because I said, you need to go inspect it every couple of weeks. And you have to inspect it after it's framed before it's sheetrocked in. And they went and looked at it and there was mold on numerous boards. And the builder was like, I'm not fixing it because they didn't cover up the material and the humidity and the rain got to it. And then they put in moldy boards in a house. You know the solution to that?
Bleach?
Burn it down.
No, I thought you
That's the
said what was
solution.
their solution? Okay, yeah, no, but, like, yeah, there's no fixing that, but I was gonna say, I feel like people think that you can just bleach it or paint over it and it's gonna be fine, and that's the worst thing you can possibly do.
No, no. So if it's in your walls on studs that you can't find or see, because who knows, it's that stud, it's this stud, like good luck.
There's
Like
no
you're
fixing
just
that.
leaving.
Mhm.
Yeah. You could rip all the sheetrock out, then sand down the boards, then put the sheetrock back up. No one's doing that either. Um, and from my opinion, I have never ever found a successful, let's just go fog the cavities and it actually work. And here's how I determine work. You do it, you deep clean the house so there's no more particles left around. You wait 2 months to 3 months. You deep clean the house again, and then you wait a month, and then you do a dust sample. So
Always
I'm
still has
diligent
mold.
with the way that
Mhm.
I look for this. And so anyway, this guy, he's like, I guess it's here. So he left, um, went and moved in with his girlfriend for a couple weeks. They were getting a place together anyway. And he's like, man, I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to come back around. Now, honestly, just leaving wasn't it. We'd also been doing 2 months of getting rid of the microbiome dysfunction, rewiring the nervous system, doing the physical therapy for that because he was in mold for so long. So he's been putting the work in so that when he leaves and did, he could see improvement. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people get disenchanted with is we all want to tell our clients like, hey, when you get out of the mold, things are going to be better. Well, we also want to tell you if you come in and see us in our programs 3 months kickstart, you're going to feel a lot better in 3 months or whatever that thing is out there. And a lot of providers are guilty of this is they're not giving real timelines. They're not giving real expectations. So, today, just to say it out loud, like if you've been in mold for 2 years and your symptoms went from I'm healthy to I've got a bunch of symptoms of inflammation and brain fog and fatigue is 7 or 8, like it takes some time to get you out of that. It doesn't mean you shouldn't see progress, but it does take time and diligence to get out of that. And you can measure progress through rerunning labs and understanding what is shifting in the body.
Mhm, mhm, absolutely, and I think that's an important thing to note too, right? I think a lot of people think, "Oh, if I was living in mold, I'm just gonna leave, everything is gonna get better," but there's still a lot of work that needs to happen to kind of, detox your body of the mold and kind of reset your microbiome and reset that kind of, safety response too, right? I mean, there's a lot of work that has to happen even once you leave the mold.
Yeah, being in mold and leaving is the beginning for
Mhm.
many.
Step 1. Yep.
Unfortunately, I had a gentleman that was out of country and in a place where mold inspections aren't a thing. Mold remediators, not a thing. And he had 5,000 particles of Aspergillus pinicoides. And I'm usually telling people I'd like you to below 200 at a minimum. Uh, and it took him a year because resources are limited on for what they're doing. He had multiple different cleaning crews and pulling this up and pulling that thing off and checking the mattress and this and that. And finally we get it below 200. And then he goes, I've seen no progress. I go, I didn't expect you to with that. Honestly, I'm sorry. I didn't expect you to. And it's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking for someone to have to live through that. But now that he's out of it, I'm like, okay, the work really gets to begin. And not every case is that way. I've had just as many people where they were in mold and they saw progress, but it depends on where you're at. Like this guy genetically and symptom wise is in a really dark place. Some people that come to me, they're still functioning. They can still work. They can still walk for that matter. They can still move around. They're still mobile. So they can make progress in some mold while we're working on that process. It just depends on the person. That's why it's so unique to each individual. And why I said earlier, it depends on you, your genetics, your stress, your actual situation, and the quantity and types of mold inside your house.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, we have time for one more question, and since you brought it up, I wanna dive into it. Let's talk a little bit about the Lyme vaccine and all the issues that we see with what's going on with the one they're trying to get in front of everyone.
Oh man.
Might be in a whole other podcast episode, but we can,
How
try to unpack a little bit of it.
how is your following with vaccine truths?
I just had Doctor Joel Gator on my podcast. He's gonna air right before you, so hopefully
Okay,
they'll be a
good. So
little
they're gonna be
primed for
warmed
your
up for me.
episode.
I was like, how deep and dark do we go here?
We can go deep and
Uh,
dark.
so so oh man, the Lyme vaccine, first of all, like we said earlier, Lyme disease is technically Borrelia burgdorferi. That is the species that they're targeting. They actually put about 6 different Lyme species into this vaccine because I went down a rabbit hole the other day because I was just like, I'm curious what they're doing. And I'm glad I did that now. So they're targeting 6 and they're saying that it can reduce the likelihood because this is how it works. And don't quote me on this like I'm the expert, but this is the research I found is that it's not actually even helping your immune system defend you. It's helping that when a tick bites you and the blood goes into the tick, that the vaccine stops the spirochetes, which is the type of bacteria, like Borrelia burgdorferi, from going back into you, like traps them in the tick.
It's like we're vaccinating the tick, right? That's how I kind of read it too.
Kinda, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm reading.
Mhm.
So I go, well, that's a cool concept, except when I run a Vibrant America Tick-Borne panel, there's 29, I believe, different Borrelias. Now, Bedorfia has one. There's 29 different ones on there. Well, some are animals and some are humans, and we don't have the best evidence on all of them. So, okay, you're going to defend 6. That's not a bad idea. I'll give Pfizer that much. It's not a bad concept. I've
At least
never
there
been
at least
against.
it's more than one, right?
Yeah, it's like I've never been against the concept of vaccinating. The problem is the outcome. So let's look at the outcome. So you protect against Borrelia, but what if you got Babesia, Ehrlichia, Anaplasma? What if you
Bartonella,
get,
all the other
yeah, I mean,
fun conditions, right?
the list is a mile long of all these other things. And somebody's gonna say, well, I'd rather just be defended against a few, and that's at least a better chance. Sure. Okay, but let's say you would I do this thing if there's no side effects and there's no risk? Still probably not, because 'cause I'm just not afraid of these organisms once I got my immune system healthy, but I could understand why people would do it. I could understand if there's no side effects and risk. So let's go to the side effects and risk category now. Look up Aaron Siri, look up Joel Gator, look up Dr. Peter Mercola, and you can go down a rabbit hole. I haven't talked about all of this stuff as in depth, but um, as you go down the rabbit hole, you look at this. What is the efficacy of like the flu vaccine? 20%, maybe. It's up and down depending upon the year. How often does an organism mutate? Well, viruses mutate all the time. Bacteria, it's slower, but they do mutate. So, does this mean you need a booster every single year? What does that look like? Is the next question I come to. Um, when you look at the evidence for what these vaccines are doing in the body and are they actually effective like polio was basically wiped out before that came out so they say it's effective but really it's not the flu vaccine is not effective and then you start looking at okay even if effectiveness was nothing would you take the risk to feel better well then let's talk about what vaccines are now starting to show and this is my scariest point when covid came around and we vaccinated what we found was it upped the functionality of your defense against that, whatever you were vaccinated for. So COVID-19 original. What it did to the rest of the viruses you'd come into, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, all these other herpes viruses, is it made you weak because it caused your immune system to close in and get tunnel vision on the thing that it was just vaccinated for. So now I can't protect against anything else. And this was proven with a DTaP study that was done back in Africa. They actually went to Africa and they were doing humanitarian work. Concept's amazing. The idea is great. We go, we vaccinate the third world. They stop dying from pertussis, diphtheria, tetanus. Awesome. That's DTaP. The problem is retroactively 30 years later, they went back and they said, okay, well, did any of these people die of DTaP? No, but the likelihood they died of something else was 5 times higher. So you protected this, but you wiped out the ability to defend against everything else. So that is why for me, the concept of vaccination has become really, really, really scary because I'm just like, well, we didn't know that. They couldn't have looked out and seen that because there's almost no long-term data on vaccines and outcomes as a after you move past like 2 or 3 days. There's almost no data. The only data that exists, which is not the best data, like it's not the best types of studies. It's not $1 billion spent on it to do a long-term study of multiple populations over a 40, 50, 60-year process. But when they do retroactive stuff, such as looking at people that get measles, they have a 20% reduction in cardiovascular disease later in life. So is it worth getting measles when the death likelihood of death is almost non-existent today of getting measles? So I just go back to all these people that are scared of Lyme and go, okay, if you're already weak as far as your immune system, you already aren't as resilient to fight it because that's why you're worried about this, then is it worth it to maybe get stronger against Borrelia, but weaker against every other bacteria out there? Who knows? We just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important too. I mean, with Lyme disease, really your immune system is the only thing that really essentially kills it. I mean, even doxycycline just kind of slows the replication cycle so your immune system can catch up and kill it. So really, I think it's about keeping the immune system healthy, terrain of your body healthy so that it's not an optimal place for these microbes and toxins to really thrive and your immune system can do what it needs to do.
Exactly. That's what I tell to everybody all the time. I go, whether it's natural or pharmaceutical, whether it's a combination of both, in the end, we get the terrain that you live in, your body, the toxins, the stress, the trauma, the diet, the water supply, the hygiene products. We get the terrain and your existence as a human into the most optimal place we can possibly get it. While doing that, if you have pathogenic overload, we still have to deal with that. I don't fully agree with people that are like, terrain is everything, infections are nothing. I think if terrain is everything from the beginning and you keep your body healthy and strong, then infections are a very minimal fear point for me. Like it's almost not even going to worry about getting Lyme. I don't. I'll go outside. If I take bites, man, I'm like, cool, whatever. I know my body's strong. I know that I've built myself to where I can withstand that. The problem is when you come to me with a chronic illness already, not only is your terrain damaged, so I can fix your terrain, but that still may not fix you because there's pathogenic overload of organisms and that pathogenic overload of organisms like Lyme disease is grown out of bounds. Epstein Barr's flared. You also have mold toxicity growing, living organism growing in your body. Just detoxing you from the toxins won't fix this. I have to reduce those burdens. And I am carefully saying I'm not eradicating those burdens. I'm reducing those burdens because it's impossible to eradicate Lyme or any of the other things I've mentioned. You can only reduce the burden from pathogenic to non pathogenic and then your immune system has to do the rest of the work to do whatever it needs to do, whether that's put it back into homeostasis. So, for instance, H. pylori, Clostridias, E. coli's, they're naturally a part of your digestive tract. They have to get put back into balance, not eradicated. They can be beneficial. And that's the thing that a lot of people miss. And people are going to be like, well, what about Lyme? Lyme's not beneficial. I don't know. I don't have evidence to say it is, but a lot of my Lyme clients that have recovered, they're actually extremely resilient and barely ever get sick now. So I don't know. I don't have any true evidence. I just have some theories. Maybe Lyme can be when in balance a beneficial microbe. I don't know that.
Something we live with. We'll have to wait and see, right? Well, Dr. Moore, thank you
Absolutely.
so much. It's been so great having you on the podcast. If people wanna find you and learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah, just look me up. My name is on everything, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, website. It's Dr. Jaban, my name, Jab as in boy, An, Moore, and just look me up anywhere. And we were putting out content all the time because I had Lyme disease. I've been there. I was chronically ill. And at the time in 2012, 13, there was no such thing as go to Instagram and find your Instadoc that will work virtually and understand Lyme. It just didn't exist. I was going from place to place to place searching for answers. So now my mission is just to make people know it's possible to overcome these things so that they can be well.
Amazing. We'll link to everything in the show notes as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.